In a world gone mad, only rationality and common sense can save it. It's Andrew and Jerry Save the World with your hosts, Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers. And now, here's Andrew and Jerry.
Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew and Jerry Save the World, episode 57. Andrew and Jerry have seen the lights go down on Broadway. We've seen the Empire State Laid Low, haven't we, Jerry?
Indeed. In fact, I mean, I was thinking about this, have been thinking about this for some time now, and that is the America that I love has rapidly accelerated toward something that is unrecognizable. And I know, we want to talk about the Trump indictment and how it's untethered from the law. But it's deeper than that. I said to you yesterday.
Hold on for a second. You said this to me yesterday. I don't think we necessarily need to even talk about the Trump indictment at this point, right? Because I think we've both. I mean, you haven't covered it on the air yet. You may want to talk about it, but I don't know what we can add at this point to it. But you were saying, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I mean, we could just add we could just add the truth.
Yes,
and then move on. I mean, the truth is that it's untethered from the law. This shows us. Put the Trump indictment in the context of everything else that has happened recently.
Right.
The GOP Republicans lost a Supreme Court justice race in Wisconsin. Chicago elected a radical progressive race baiter as their next mayor, even after what's going on there with the former mayor Lightfoot and the criminality and the violence in that city. I mean, put it together with what's happening in terms of the transgendered movement. Look, I woke up this morning where a female athlete who now works with a conservative group. I think she works with IWF, the Independent Women's Forum, and how she went to give a talk about the state of female sports programs in universities, and she literally was assaulted. This is happening.
What happened at VCU last week with the Representative Students for Life coming in and also having that talk shut down in contravention of university policy.
So what I said to you yesterday when you were on Tony, you were covering for Tony Katz.
Tony Katz today.
Yeah. So anyway, we've experienced our own French Revolution, and too many Americans don't even realize it, that their public schools have been compromised. Listen to me. If you're in a blue state, maybe even a red state, if you're in a blue state, your children are being groomed by a transgender LGBTQ plus agenda. If think about crime. I just read a story this morning. A man was let out, no bail. He strangled his stepson to death. Yeah. And this was someone who was already out on parole for pistol whipping someone, and the judge let him go. This is a man who has a violent past. But my point is, this is it. This is the breakdown of our culture. And many of our side conservatives and Christians don't even recognize it.
Well, I think they are. I think people are waking up, but we have been so
too late.
Well, that's exactly it. We've been so behind the eight ball for so long, right? It gets to what you've talked about in terms of this concept of the gradual decline and then the sudden drop off, right? Sure. It's like a continental shelf almost, where you have the beach, you go off the beach, you go down, then all of a sudden there's a shelf down into the abyss, literally the abyss below. By the way, the reference, "Seeing the Lights Go Down on Broadway," is to a Billy Joel song called Miami 2017, right? Miami 2017, that's what it was, which is a weird. When you're a kid, you don't think about this and you don't realize that it's this post-apocalyptic vision of the way America was going to look in 2017.
Well, New York in particular.
Yes, the kind of dystopian vision that gave rise to great movies like Escape from New York.
Now, the thing is, Billy Joel wrote that song in the 70s.
Yes.
And again, New York City, but urban America broadly was was going through a period where most Americans believed the cities were ungovernable.
Right.
He wrote this song, but to Billy Joel's credit, he was out in Los Angeles. He was in California when he wrote that song. And do you know what he did? He packed up and moved back to New York.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to go down swinging.
Well, he did. He wanted to go down swinging, but also he had been sort of hiding from the record, his first record label for a year. There was a whole thing going on.
It's hard to hide in California. Yes. But my point is that
listen, I will quote. It's got an awful bridge, but Neil Diamond, L.A.'s fine, but it ain't home. New York's home, but it ain't mine no more.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, sorry.
I think again, broadly, if you're a Christian, a person of faith, if you're a conservative, orthodox in any way, traditionalist, the country has, in such a short time, just tipped.
Well, okay. So let's tie a bunch of things together on this, Jerry, because I also know we want to do a tight show today because we're recording this on Good Friday. But let's tie a bunch of, just in this week, right? Just in this week, in terms of these stories, we've got the Riley Gaines story out of San Francisco State, her being essentially held hostage and assaulted there. We've got the Dylan Mulvaney being the spokesman for Bud Light and other sort of corporate entities going down this road. Jack Daniels going down the road of this LGBTQIA, the transgender issue. Yeah. I know you want to talk about Nashville. So
you had the country music awards.
Country music awards.
Again, a couple 3 days after Christian children are shot up by a transgendered radical, you have the Country Music Awards bringing on stage the drag queens.
So at the same time, you had the governor of Indiana on Wednesday. He signed a bill. Now, he had said earlier in the week that he wasn't sure what he was going to do. A Republican governor in a state like Indiana, unsure of what he's going to do on a bill that is supposed to protect kids from essentially having their bodies mutilated and used as science experiments in the name of the LGBTQIA agenda. Then the ACLU of Indiana is turned around and is suing the state over this. I want to get to this in a second, Jerry, because I got a question for you. And at the same time, we have the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, announcing that they're going in a rulemaking on transgender athletes in sports, which is essentially going to destroy women's sports, which other folks thankfully have pointed out that there is some real deep misogyny at work here. But I want to set this aside for a minute, Jerry, because I don't know if you heard, you probably didn't hear any of my segments on this when I was filling in for Tony Katz. Reading through the press release that the ACLU signed. You're right. There we go. And they quote, among the plaintiffs in the ACLU's lawsuit, Jerry, are two parents of a 10-year-old boy that they refer to as their daughter. And they say that for the last 7 years, their son, the son's not in quotes, their son has been living as a girl, following the advice of a pediatrician and a therapist from when the kid was 3.5 years old.
Can you imagine you allowing a 3-year-old to decide their own gender?
How about instead this, Jerry? I don't know of a circumstance. Now, maybe you can educate me on this. I don't know of a circumstance in which a 3-year-old would be in therapy, apart from situations in which there's been some major trauma in that 3-year-old's life. The death of a parent, some kind of an abuse, some kind of witness of some kind of abject violence, some kind of major trauma. But the idea that a 3-year-old will be put into therapy, that to me, right, and I said this on the air and I stand by this, that is a failure of parenthood. Again, absent some kind of outside force creating some kind of trauma. There's something wrong with you if you're a parent and your kid needs therapy at the age of 3.
Well, what's worse is if you're a parent and you let your son live in the delusion, the mental health sickness, believing that he's a girl.
Right.
See, this is why, Andrew, I've said to you this week a couple of times now, all is lost. You want to know why? Let me connect it. You want to know why? You want to know why Jack Daniels can put drag queens on their label, why Budweiser can put a transgendered activist on their label. Do you know why I watch Up TV? Up TV is supposed to be the family-friendly TV station, and it's running commercials with transgendered characters.
Wow.
Again, the reason why this is all happening is because we're now on our third generation, but we've raised two generations where they were taught there is no truth, there is no God, there is no right and wrong. It's only what you believe. And so therefore, they are now not only the marketers, but those to whom we're marketing to.
Well,
and so my point to our listeners, this isn't going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Well, and so therefore, my point is, and I want to drive this home, is I think people of traditional values, we need to begin to rally around each other to create communities so we can raise our kids, so we can have a livelihood. Andrew, do you realize that up at Real Clear Policy, where I'm the editor, medical schools are requiring students to take a DEI oath. Now, you have universities requiring professors to take an oath to equity. And again, watch equity. For them, it means taking someone who looks like someone who once was discriminated against, and raising them up to discriminate against someone who looks like someone who centuries ago might have been engaged in discrimination. This is dangerous. This is Nazism, is what it is.
Well, okay, and this is where I was going with this, Jerry. This is where I was going with this, because I want you to envision a world, you know, in the depths of dystopian sci-fi. Actually, I shouldn't say that you couldn't imagine this, because I think things like this have been imagined in the past. But we're talking about a society in which the government policies are detached from reality to drive a particular agenda, right? This, you know, we could let's not even go down the road of Nazism in Nazi Germany. We can also go down the road of Stalinism or Maoism. Probably Maoism is probably the better analog here, right? Where you have policies that are being driven by magical thinking, that are being driven by ideology instead of objective reality, where people are told that if they don't swear the appropriate oath to whatever this ideology is, whether it is some kind of anti-Semitic driven ideology or some kind of Marxist Leninist driven ideology or some kind of Maoist cultural revolution ideology
or some kind of DEI.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
Jerry, this is the point, is that you swear your allegiance to the ideology, and you swear that, as Orwell would have said, 2 + 2 is 5. Right? You believe that 2 + 2 is 5. Right? That's the tipping point, I guess, Jerry, is what we're talking about here. Because it's one thing to just swear, and this Orwell made this point in 1984, and he was right on. I don't know when the last time you read 1984 was, Jerry, but you will recall that in talking about this, in being interrogated, Winston Smith is told, it's not enough that you parrot what we're saying. I don't believe you when you say you know that 2 + 2 is 5, Winston Smith. I need to know that you believe that 2 + 2 is 5, if that's what the party has told you to believe.
Right.
And that's what we're creating, is this system in which it is this ideology and people actually genuinely believe it.
You know, it's funny. I was just watching a video, a reel, and there were these pro-abortion protesters. And again, it's very interesting. There's a real good piece over at First Things this morning talking about how the abortion debate has gone off the rails, where it used to be, again, the Clinton position of safe, rare, and legal has turned into celebrating, and everyone must celebrate abortion.
Right.
And anyway, so there's this reel where this young girl is protesting, and she's asked the question, well, why do you support abortion? Why are you, again, I'm not even sure if you can use the word choice anymore, because they don't believe in choice.
Right.
They believe abortion should be mandated and that it should be celebrated, and taxpayers should pay for it. It should be should be part of the culture.
Listen, it is all of the trappings of a death cult in a very real way.
Right. So anyway, but she says, well, because I don't believe life begins at conception. And the person she's talking to on camera is like, well, I mean, we know from science and we know from biology, we know from all all the data and evidence that yes, there's a unique life at conception. And then she said something that was that struck me. She goes, well, I don't believe that. So you don't believe the science, you don't believe the biology. I don't believe it. And that's it right there, because and we've talked about this, and we've talked about this for a decade. For the left, this is a religion.
Yes.
They accept certain things on faith. You brought this up. It's not enough just to say it or to parrot the line. You have to believe it. But the only way to believe it is to take it as a matter of faith.
Sorry, go ahead.
And that's the battle we're in. And I think too many Americans don't realize it. This is not just a political battle. We've lost the politics. We've lost the culture. We're not going back, but we can still we only push back for truth. And that's the only thing to do now, is to speak the truth. See, there are still too many who want to like the David French type school of thinking, or the Jonah Goldberg school of thinking. They want to respond with a certain kind of kindness and I look. Let me say this real quick.
Well, this gets us into the Tennessee thing. Go ahead.
I said this to my kids because I have Liam's only 8 years old, but my girls are older. Grace is 13, Maddie's 16. Bridget and Claire are both in their 20s. And they're now, this is now their lives.
Right.
Even though they go to Catholic school, and even though we go to church, they spend 99% of their time in the world. So I sent them a piece. Again, let me just, if you don't mind, let me just a point of personal privilege. So there's an activist, a Christian activist who was lesbian. And she accepted Christ as her savior and changed how she was living. Who knows if she fell backwards and sinned? We all do, but she literally repented. She was living a certain way, and then she repented and stopped living that way.
Right.
However, because she was from the LGBTQ plus community, she had relationships, and she wanted to be kind, and she wanted to offer a truce, a peace. And so she engaged in the whole pronoun endeavor where she would call a boy a girl, or he a she and she a he. Well, she just wrote this Substack piece it's amazing. And she writes about how she's repenting of that this is the whole problem. The problem is that we're trying to win over the left with a certain kind of acceptance and kindness. Sure. And she makes the point. She goes, I will no longer use the wrong pronouns. It's sinful. And I agree with her. Yeah. It's sinful to use the wrong pronouns. But besides that, she tells a story of a young girl who again was transgendered, and everyone just accepted it and celebrated it, called her the new pronoun. Her mom and dad never affirmed it. They loved her. They never disowned her, but they would not engage in the self-delusion, never called her him. Anyway, this young girl found Christ, and even though she had a mastectomy and some other issues, she detransitioned, and now she can't trust anyone but her parents,
right?
Because her parents never lied to her.
Sure,
that yes, you are a him. But everyone else lied to her.
Right.
And my point is, to those who want to impact the culture still and want to push back on politics, we have to just tell the truth. We have to trust the truth. Whether it's COVID policies or whether it's trans policies, whatever the policy or the issue, speak the truth.
Let's put a fine point on that for a second, Jerry, because what you're talking about here it is resistance in a very fundamental and important way, right? It is essentially, right, the old allegory of the emperor's new clothes, right? You had a whole culture and society that would when the emperor walked around naked, they would say, oh, that's the finest clothes you have on, until some boy stood up there and said, hey, why aren't you wearing any clothes? The point is, it is the pull of forcing people to, not forcing, I'm sorry, it is the pull of encouraging people to engage in this subjective reality, in this surreality, as a way of societal acceptance. This is what keeps society crazy. You know, it fundamentally, right? The message of the film Gaslight, or Gaslight is the name of the film. The concept is gaslighting, is that the husband was doing subtle things around the house to confuse his wife, and in doing so, because she was trying to hold on to reality, she was being driven crazy. And that's the point that I'm making here. I'm sorry.
I get it. I understand. But the challenge is, though, or the reality
hold on, Jerry,
that,
let me underscore the point.
Sure.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I think I can find the thread here. Every time you are forced to deny reality, and you are to accept the surreality over what is real, that is what drives you a little bit more crazy. And maybe the mass hysteria that we're seeing on a whole host of issues, you know, like when you have thousands of people showing up, thousands of kids showing up in Nashville, to do it. Or listen, I'll take the flip side of this. Thousands of people showing up in Washington, D.C., to protest an election that they know there's something wrong with, but they can't put their fingers on it. And they've got a whole host of people in the media telling them that they're going crazy. They're the crazy ones. This is what drives them crazy. This is what drives people to do these things. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're correct, but the levers of power are controlled by the progressives, by those the equity cult.
No, but progressives, Jerry. But we talked about this. It's the elitists, right? And the way that the elitists stay in power is by keeping the populace crazy and off balance and confused about what's
which
really
and which again in our private conversations we've talked about. We're like Rome.
Yes,
where it's no wonder why professional athletes get tens of millions of dollars. It's a distraction for us.
Right.
Look,
bread and circuses.
I want to say this because I talked about it on the radio program on Sunday, and that is, so we had a transgendered person radicalized go into a Christian school and murder 6 people, including 3 children, one of whom, a 9-year-old girl, was shot as she was trying to pull the alarm to warn her classmates.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that little girl, and again, what kind of evil it takes to shoot her. But that's it, right? We don't use the word evil. We don't use the word sin. In America today, we live in an America, a dystopian type America, where the group from which this murderer comes from was celebrated. There was at the White House a trans visibility day where Joe Biden said the trans community is the heart and soul of America. You had in states around the country, including Maryland, you had Governor Wes Moore sign a trans visibility day. You had a trans day of vengeance that same week. You had ABC News and other outlets saying that what drove the killer to kill was essentially Orthodox Christianity. I mean, they were blaming again, in real time, victim blaming.
Right. The students going into the Tennessee Capitol and saying that there were 7 victims. No, there were 6. There was a perpetrator, and but she was not the trans radical organization. All the Reaction Network saying that.
But Andrew, sometimes you expect the radicals to be radical. You expect children not to know things yet. However, you had serious news journalists doing the same thing.
Right. But again, that's the whole point, is that a kid, and this is the thing. I want to be really clear about something here. And there are two things that are going on. The rights and the people who are upset on the right about Bud Light and Jack Daniels and Nike and whatever, especially on the Dylan Mulvaney stuff. It's not just it's not that it's that we've just had this situation in which these schools were shot up, and then this transgender person, who I don't really think is transgender, by the way, and I do like the way John Justice categorizes this. He calls it gender cosplay, which I think is a great way of putting it. This is someone who is pretending to be a woman and doing the grossest caricature of what a woman is, which I would think that any woman would find offensive. Let me add something here, by the way, Jerry. We talk about truth telling. This is why I have a great deal of sympathy and greater respect for what are called the TERFs. I know you're familiar with this term.
Right.
These are trans exclusionary radical feminists. These are feminists who look at this situation with what's going on with the athletes and people like Dylan Mulvaney, and they say, you know something, they are not women and they should not be included. All the things that we have fought for that are now being taken by men who want to pretend to be women. This is not the America that we signed up for. This is not the feminist movement we signed up for. But sorry,
it's the reality. It's the reality. And here's what I think. You had these gun activists and other activists, trans activists and anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment activists storm the Tennessee Capitol, take it over, and you had three legislators, two of whom were actually directing the mob, and they have been expelled from the Tennessee legislature.
Right.
Now, the left, instead of saying, "Oh my goodness, how can legislators direct the mob, help the mob, break the rules, break the law?" That's a mini. Byron York from the Washington Examiner said it was a mini January 6th.
Absolutely. Agreed.
But today, this morning, and you know this, and anyone listening to us, if you were watching MSNBC, if you were watching Morning Joe, if you were watching CNN, these two legislators, two of whom were expelled because they helped lead the rebellion, the mob. One was not expelled because she did not engage in the directing the mob. But regardless, two are expelled. They're all over the news media today.
Sure, they're heroes.
As heroes.
Yes.
But again, there's a news story. American Greatness had a piece yesterday about how one of the January 6th defendants, still in jail, by the way, 2 years later, still in jail, was watching Tucker Carlson, and other prisoners attacked him and stabbed him.
Yeah.
Again, so you have two mobs take over capitals.
Right.
One, this is insurrection. This is the greatest threat to democracy.
Exactly.
And people are still in jail. The government has withheld evidence. They have essentially persecuted hundreds of Americans.
Right.
And then you have this other mob, and now that mob is celebrated.
Right. That's right.
For doing almost exactly the same thing.
Well, I would say
over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No. The exact same thing.
Stopping government procedures, stopping government action,
and the expulsion of these two legislators for aiding and abetting this kind of rioting. Right. Let's be really clear. Right. If January 6th was a riot, as you and I have said, interfering with the official proceedings of government, and folks got in and rioted, then certainly the same thing can be said about this. If January 6th was a threat to democracy, but what is the left saying about these legislators? Well, the legislators were being expelled. That's a threat to democracy.
Right.
I mean, it is, and this is what I'm saying in terms of promoting the mass hysteria. This is where we come down and we say the cognitive dissonance. Do you can't believe what is in front of your eyes because they're lying to you. And this may be the most tinfoil hat conspiracy theorizing show we've ever done.
No, but it's not. And what I want to do is I want to I want to make clear here, because I don't want to be like Sean Hannity or others where they're just ranting about the problem. I think the solution to this is to, and the irony here is that you and I have gone back and forth with Donald Trump. We were not enthusiastic about his campaign in 2016. I was as close to never Trump as you could be.
Right.
He becomes president. I was converted because I was an anti-Trumper. His enemies were my enemies, so to speak. And he was so unfairly treated that you couldn't help but defend him. And then, of course, he comes up with the tax cuts. He comes up with putting the Israeli U.S. embassy into Jerusalem. He actually did what he said he was going to do, so you had to support his policies. Right. But then again, you had the post-election Donald Trump, where arguably, and I've said this, he cost the Republicans the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. I mean, I'd make the argument that he's done more harm than good post-presidency. But that being said, you and I, that was a long lead, I apologize, but you and I talked about the reason why they hated him. And one reason why I began to support Trump back then was because he didn't let anything lie.
Right.
He went even the most, the small offense he went after.
This is what Mary Walters said on the air yesterday as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the solution today. We can't let anything lie.
Right.
Every time they tell an untruth, we have to, in our own way, we have to correct it. If you're a parent and your children are in public school and they're teaching your kindergartner, your first grader, second grader about how to masturbate, on how to masturbate their friends. In seventh,
don't. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to make a joke. I won't.
No, but I'm just saying this is this is what they're teaching little kids. Right. So a parent should go and say no. Yes. Not. Well, this is wrong.
I'm talking about. This is what gets me about this story about the Michelangelo's David thing down in.
I didn't follow that. I saw
Florida.
it. I thought it was.
I mean, basically, a Christian school. They teach about art history,
right?
And before they teach about Michelangelo's David, they usually send a letter out about this. And apparently, the letter didn't go out, and so all of a sudden, kids see a statue of a naked boy. And people get upset. But remember, this is a conservative Christian school. This is not a public school. There's a difference here in terms of this. And we're not talking about high school students who are learning about, great art. I mean, these are elementary school students.
Again, and watch the downside of just letting parents know what's being taught.
100%. And yet now we're talking about, well, they want to ban art and they want to ban books, but they don't want to ban guns. No. Again,
the funny thing is they keep on saying that the right wants to ban books. I have yet to find any evidence of the right wanting to ban books. What they've said is in a curriculum for first graders, these books shouldn't be used.
Right.
That's not banning books.
And again, we go down to it. If you're but a curriculum for second, third, fourth junior high school students containing sexually explicit material, maybe as parents, we don't want our kids reading this. I mean, they're exposed to so much already, right? This is the issue, the sexualization of kids and how kids are getting exposed to things. This is a problem. And to say that it's not going to affect kids' brains, we know that it affects kids' brains.
And here, here's the bottom line for me. Why are we talking to any children about sex, period, in school?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, this is, and I like The West Wing. Remember the old show?
Yeah, I never watched it.
I watched it.
I watched a handful of episodes.
But it is extraordinarily liberal.
Yes,
and it's very preachy.
Right. It's.
However,
hold on for a second. Yeah. It's the liberals, and I'm going to use the phrase, the liberals' wet dream of what they always wanted a liberal president to be.
Right. Yes.
With absolutely no consequences for the political realities of it. Go ahead.
Right. But my point is that I do like it. I enjoy the dialogue. There's some history to it. I find the rapport with the characters it's very charming. especially in the first 4 seasons.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm rewatching it now, and it's amazing. There's an episode on teaching sex education and how we have to teach kids about sex. They're having sex anyway, and how the stats are this or stats are that. There's an episode on gun control and how we have to get the guns, and there's an episode on homosexuality and gay issues. And the funny thing is that I wish I was a writer on the show. Dee Dee Myers was a writer, the Bill Clinton spokesperson, because they're so wrong about everything.
Yes.
But the funny thing is that this show debuted in '99.
Yes.
All their issues are now mainstream.
Yeah. All
these issues that were controversial, provocative in 1999. We're not only teaching sex education in our public schools, we're literally teaching, I'm sorry to say this again, Mom, we're literally teaching kindergartners and first graders how to masturbate.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if a 5-year-old can masturbate, for crying out loud.
I don't even want to think about it.
Yes. Right, exactly. Right. But this is now the big push in our schools. And you know this. We've had a COVID impact on young people,
right?
Where their learning disabilities and learning delay is very serious business, mental health issues and socialization. We know that we've lost a decade of learning because of the shutdowns. We know that in cities like Chicago, like Baltimore, like the Bronx and New York, like Philadelphia, like LA, that we are graduating children who cannot read and write. But yet the focus of the teachers' unions, the focus of the educational establishment isn't to teach history or math or English, isn't to teach reading. It's literally to teach children sex.
Well, yeah,
and sexualized topics.
Well, and add to this, Jerry, right? You
Why?
get kids down this road at an early age, then you add into it, especially for young women, girls, social media and phones and access to this and the pressures that are there. You add to that then the lack of socialization, right? To pull it back, way back from the sex issue. Between COVID and the proliferation of cell phones, we have kids who are unable to talk to each other in a very real sense. And then you get the continued infantilization of all of this. Actually, let me turn our attention sort of elsewhere as we're talking about these LGBTQIA issues, because it's something that came up in the discussion of this Indiana bill that was signed into law this week. And the left's over the top reaction to this is exemplified by the ACU's lawsuit in response. We are in a world, Jerry, where you and I have talked about age and maturity in terms of, the ages at which we allow kids to do things. And I've said, and I mean this in a very real way, we need to raise the voting age back from 18 to 21. But one of the examples that I was talking about over the weekend, Jerry, is we don't allow kids under the age of 18 to buy cigarettes. I'm sorry, under the age of 21 now to buy cigarettes, right? They've now raised the age to 21. We don't want them to vape. There's a huge push. We're banning flavored tobacco, whether it's whether it's menthol cigarettes or some sort of fruit flavored cigars. There's a huge ad campaign going on about how vaping affects the mental well-being of young people, right? We went through this 3-4 years ago about the vaping epidemic. And that's stuff that can have a permanent impact. We don't let kids make decisions for themselves, even with their parents, as to whether or not they can smoke or vape. And yet we're going to allow them, the only people who, and we pass laws about this, yet the only people who can have a say between as to whether or not a child is going to mutilate himself or herself, or whether or not they're going to have take life-altering medicines to block their puberty, that's only between a parent and their child. I mean, again, it's a form of insanity. Go ahead.
There's a story, it was at Fox News earlier in the week, a woman who was attempting to adopt 2 9-year-olds.
Yes.
In Oregon. and was well on her way to adopting these children. However, she had to affirm the Oregon state, the government's DEI transgendered oath.
Yeah.
And she said, well, as a Christian, I can't do that. And now she's being denied the adoption. Yeah. Not because she's a bad parent, doesn't have the resources, but because she doesn't take the oath. She won't.
Right.
She won't affirm, celebrate the transgendered agenda. Look, I said this earlier. It's not going to. We're going to see more of this.
Right, of course.
We're going to see because and that's because the again, I don't want to be mean, but the dumbest generation, the two dumbest generations are now running the show.
And let's be really clear here. When you say dumb, Jerry's not casting aspersions on their mental acuity or their abilities down the road. What Jerry is saying is that we have two successive generations of kids that have been so fundamentally indoctrinated and given this issue of magical thinking and have not been told the way the world really works, that they are ignorant, profoundly ignorant.
And
I mean,
they have no and also
idiocracy,
and they have no sense of history.
Right.
You know, someone said this recently. Victor Davis Hanson, who is a scholar and you know he's a right of center thinker. He said that, and he still teaches. And he said in university level, and he said it's amazing how his students have no sense of history.
Right.
And what frightens him about that is that we've learned important lessons from history. All those lessons have been lost on this generation and the previous two. And that makes for a very scary future.
Well, right. I mean, Jerry, again, we talk about this issue of gaslighting and the creation of mass hysteria, and how if you detach people from objective reality, that will slowly drive them insane. So now I've talked about this in the past, right? How if you have two views of American history, two conflicting views of American history, we don't have a common heritage. And if you don't have a common heritage as a society, you can't come together and solve problems.
Right. Yes.
But the other part of this is, from what you're talking about and the perspective that you're talking about, is if you are taught that there are no good lessons to be learned from America's history, then you essentially you view American history through one prism and one prism only, and that's the prism of race. Well, then you're not going to come away with any positive lessons, right? You're going to come away and you're essentially going to trash the institutions that we think about. It is a surefire way of destroying a society.
You know, I thought about this the other day when I said to you that we're experiencing our own kind of French Revolution.
Yeah.
And for those who aren't familiar, the French Revolution was violent.
Yes.
And it was anti-liberty. It was murderous. And it was, I mean, we've had so many episodes in our history. We had the Nazis in Germany. We had Mao in China, Stalin in the Soviet Union, Pol Pot in Cambodia, the French Revolution, genocides in Africa and Asia. I mean, our history is one of the very powerful, taking and keeping power with murderous actions.
You know, it's just, say what you will about the American Civil War and to an extent the American Revolution. We saw some of this in the American Revolution, but you did not see in the American Civil War, at the very least, that civil conflict being used to settle old scores.
Well, ironically, it's happening today.
Right. This is my point, is that, you know, whether it was the French Revolution, whether it was Mao, whether it was Nazi Germany, whether it was, you know, these societal upheavals, certainly in the various African civil wars.
You know, it's funny. Just recently in California, they're moving rapidly towards reparations.
Right.
And you know, for slavery. And I think, again, if we understood history, California was never a slave state. California was entered the Union as a free state.
Yes.
So a state that never had slavery is now going to be the first state, perhaps, to begin paying for reparations. and it's going to be close to $1 trillion. They're going to bankrupt themselves.
Yeah.
I think maybe that is part of the at the end of the day, part of the solution here, that all of these ideologies begin to eat their own and to bankrupt.
There's that. I mean, but the problem is, do you recognize it before it's too late? And that's what the thing that gets me, right? Because you talk about whether it's, again, when you have a society that is focused on, or a movement that is focused on viewing everything through the prism of race, all I can think about is going back to, when I say this knowing we're right in the middle of the Passover holiday, going back to the Nuremberg laws about racial purity in Nazi Germany, and how they were going to determine who was a Jew for the purposes of that person's, whether or not that person was going to be allowed to participate in society, or whether or not that person was going to be separated from society, sent to either a concentration camp.
Who pays and who benefits?
Right.
Who pays who? And we're doing it. We're doing that today.
And that's what I'm saying is that, because in order to go down this road of determining who is beneficial, you create these standards that are based upon how someone looks or someone's biology. This is not the way we're supposed to do things in America.
It's interesting. We started the show
on the clock, Jerry, by the way.
I know. We started the show at least mentioning and acknowledging the Trump indictment.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And for those who don't know the phrase "jump the shark," it's from Happy Days.
Yes.
Happy Days was a popular, awesome program in the 70s and early 80s.
Interestingly, a spinoff from Love American Style.
That's right. I knew that.
Yes.
Anyway, regardless, there's an episode, famously, when Fonzie jumps a shark.
Yes.
And that's when the sitcom All Downhill began to fail. So is the Trump indictment, is this the left's jump the shark moment? And I say that because, and again, there's nothing in this indictment. He broke no law. Maybe a misdemeanor where the statute of limitations has run out. In fact, it is so trumped up. It is so ridiculous that all honest men and women should dismiss it. The judge should have dismissed it.
Right.
So that's how this plays out. For me, will tell us what the near future will be like. But the second thing is that's one option, that they've jumped the shark and that Americans will wake up. And we might see at least for a short period of time, some kind of revival of Americanism and Western civilization and truth and all the rest of it. That's one option. The other option, however, is that we've become so warped. Yeah. And I said this to you on the air. The FBI, the DOJ, the IRS, the government, Hollywood, academia, corporate boardrooms. Have we become so warped that we'll never get fair elections again?
I will tell you, Jerry,
and we'll continue down this road.
I will say almost that what's going to jump what will cause the left to have jumped the shark is when essentially when the detachment of reality. I'm sorry. Let me just push back for a second on whether or not the Trump indictment is the left jumping the shark.
I don't know if it is or not. I'm asking the question.
No,
I don't know if it is.
And I think it's a good question to ask. Yeah. And to me, I would say no, because this is exactly what the left wants.
Yeah.
They know how this is going to play out. And because, as you've pointed out, because we don't have a good RNC chair who can deal with this on an electoral
level.
Thanks,
by the way, to Donald Trump.
Yes, absolutely. That we're not going to see the pushback that we need to get, the organization that we need to deal with this. To me, it's going to come out when ESG policies fully wreck the economy. We see the extent of it, right? Whatever the next step is with both the Saudis and OPEC decreasing oil production and China,
while they're building refineries in China, at the same time that China and India are decoupling themselves and trying to decouple the world economy from the dollar. Yep.
These are the things that are going to do this, right? To me, we're talking about we're talking about America in the mid 1970s.
Yeah, but here's the difference though. America in the 1970s,
you know,
we had not divorced ourselves from who we were.
No, but Jerry,
we've lost confidence in ourselves.
But we've lost confidence in ourselves, and we were in the wilderness, and America was sheepish, and we had a weak president who made mistake after mistake, and it took, frankly, I think what's going to happen is we need something on the level, and I don't want to, I'm going to say it, we need something on the level of the Iranian hostage situation, to sort of give America the wake-up call that it needs.
Well, I agree with you in principle. I don't think the left has jumped the shark either. Yeah. I'm hopeful. I mean, I wish that was the moment. I look, and again, I don't mean to be just a despairing person today, but I think America, our culture, our school systems, our public education, our universities, our corporate boardrooms, our military, we're too warped. And I'll give you an example of that.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is from our friends on the left. So Chicago is a Democrat city. I don't expect a Republican or conservative to win in Chicago or Baltimore or for that matter, New York and other cities. But there really was a battle in Chicago for the mayoralship between a very aggressive progressive, a radical Marxist race baiter versus one of the remnants, reminders of what centrist Democrats look like, and the radical won. Yeah, and how he won was through the media allowing for misinformation and lies. He rallied racial resentment. And he had the powerful on his side. In this case, it was the Chicago Teachers Union. And so that's the model for the left and why they're going to keep on winning elections. They match racial resentment or resentment, the equity resentment with their powerful allies, and they win. That's how they won in Wisconsin.
And at the same time, by making their opponents toxic and tied to toxic figures. This is the thing.
I don't see that changing.
Well, and I don't see it changing either. This is the thing, as I said this on John Justice's show yesterday morning. I made the point about this indictment of Donald Trump being exactly what they want, right? Because at this point, right, the trial's not going to happen until next December, right as the GOP is moving into its primary season. Democrats are doing this as well. If Joe Biden gets a challenger, which I don't think he's going to. So Joe Biden has no challenger. He is just able to run for president, but Republicans are going to be falling all over themselves, and all of the oxygen is going to be taken up by Donald Trump and Donald Trump's trial. Whether or not Donald Trump can be on the ballot, whether or not Donald Trump is being persecuted, all of these things, right? And God forbid, Trump gets indicted in Georgia, and indicted by the DOJ for January 6th, right? All of these things will just galvanize a Republican base in support of Donald Trump. And this is exactly what the left wants.
Yes.
Because in the end, they want Donald Trump to be the nominee.
Again, they want, that's the secret, the open secret.
Right.
The left want Donald Trump.
And I think, hold on. Let me be really
You're
clear.
right.
And I think they want him now. I know there are some who disagree, and you may disagree with me on this, Jerry. But I think that because the Republicans still have not learned why they lost structurally in 2020 and 2022 and have not done anything to deal with it, that the Team Biden thinks, and I think they'll do it successfully, that they can make Trump so toxic that they just pull off a handful of voters here, a handful of voters there.
You're right. You're 100% right.
So I said this yesterday.
They won't even have to cheat this time.
Right. And this is what I said. I said this yesterday on John's show, and I immediately got attacked by ardent Trump supporters. And this is the problem, right? The problem is they can't think empirically. And I pointed this out. I said, listen, I don't think you really heard what I said. I didn't say necessarily that it would be Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump easily. Go back and listen to what I said. Here's what I said. No, I don't want to listen to what you said. By the way, you're a fat guy. You know, I had some guy who said I essentially looked like Chris Christie's retarded brother.
I love it.
Right.
That is so funny.
Right. But as a way of getting a rise out of me, to which I said, okay, so you have no argument, so you're going to make fat jokes. Like, I don't know that I'm a fat guy. Okay, tell me something I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
And none of them would answer, right?
You know what, though? But Andrew, again, going back to topic we've talked about, we are moving. This person was educated in the public school system. This person might have been of the two generations that I've already spoke about how they don't understand history or they can't think for themselves.
Yes.
We've raised two generations of folks. We not to think critically, but to tell them what to think, and that impacts the right as well as the left. But the funny thing is this.
Oh, okay. Funny thing is this, and I want to say something.
Yeah, the funny thing is that, again, this is a very kind of like a despairing conversation for the future. But again, I want to say this again. It's the third or fourth time I said it during the program. I do think all of this is our fault.
Right.
And if it's our fault, we can correct it. And at least for the short term, make some positive differences. Let me be clear about this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying give up. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying double down. And if you haven't been engaged, I said it on the air last week. We had Christians murdered, but radical. And Joe Biden and his spokesperson never said the word Christian.
Right. And they can't, and they refuse to call it a hate crime.
Right. And the thing is, my cry on Sunday was, where's the Archdiocese of Baltimore,
right,
of Washington? Where are the Assemblies of God? Where is the Baptist Church? Where are the church leaders? Where are the moms and dads? Take back the public square. We can do that.
Right. And this is what
But Trump's not going to do it for us.
Well, and this
cult of personality. We need a savior. Which is why I don't like the language. We need another Reagan. We don't need another Reagan. Well, no. What we need is for moms and dads to simply speak the truth, be good parents, have dinner with your kids. And so you know what they're being taught in schools. Push back. Don't be afraid to be embarrassed. Don't mistake kindness for love.
Right.
Love can be ugly. I mean, look, it's Good Friday, and Christ on the cross. That is an ugly scene. It's the most loving event in human history is also absolutely bloody and ugly. And so this idea that we have to be nice and kind in order to be loving is not true. In fact, I want to challenge myself, and I want you to always correct me on this.
All right.
I'm never going to say the phrase, speak the love and truth. I think that is I think speaking the truth is love. Yes. Even if it's an uncomfortable truth.
Well, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is when things get to the point where you have to speak the truth because things have gotten so off the rails. It may sound ugly and hateful, right? The idea of, this idea that if you say, Dylan Mulvaney is I know John Justice says this jokingly, but he's cosplaying as a woman.
Well, that's exactly true.
Yes.
That's exactly what this person is doing.
Right. And the point is, and how offensive it is and should be to women and young girls who are out there. This again, circling back to what the Biden administration is doing, just announced. They haven't put it up. I actually was going to share it with everybody. Yeah. They haven't put it up on the Federal Register yet, but they announced yesterday that they are going to have a rulemaking. And I want to let me draw a thread here. As we are also focused on, or the media is telling us to be focused on, Donald Trump and Donald Trump's indictment. We've talked about it for a couple of minutes here. As we're talking about what's going on in Congress and the personalities there, and Marjorie Taylor Greene going up on 60 Minutes, whatever, the Biden administration has been doing rulemaking after rulemaking. Let me explain. Even if Congress doesn't pass a law nowadays, but when an agency, when an administration wants to make changes to the law, they change the rules, the regulations that are out there, and they go through what's called a rulemaking process. I'm not going to get into the vagaries here, but the point is, on every major issue that we have been talking about, whether it is educational freedom and the First Amendment on college campuses, whether it is acts of conscience and who, in terms of the medical profession, cannot perform abortions if they want to now the issue of transgenderism in sports at the high school level and lower
college
level. The administration is doing rulemakings on these things. They are changing federal government policies. Active. Now, listen, when I've been involved in the regulatory process, I'm usually dealing with stuff having to do with, rules that have some kind of an economic impact, like what the Department of Labor was doing earlier this year on the gig economy. But now we're talking about rules that deal with social issues and how we go down that road. I'm just trying to
again, to your own point, the not by legislation, not even by rulemaking, I don't think, Andrew, but this executive order signed by the president from 3 weeks ago to enforce equity in all the government agencies and programs is turning into this monster executive order,
right,
that's forcing medical students to take
loyalty oaths.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
America.
So the point is, this stuff is happening in a very real and substantive way, and we've got to pay greater attention to it. Jerry, we've been going for an hour. I know it's Good Friday. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Listen, yeah. I want to say that, and I know you wanted to talk about this too. I put up the show on Monday morning about Cameron Gray, my very good friend, Jerry's friend as well. And friend
you introduced me to Cameron, and,
yes,
and I know he's your good friend, but let me say this about him. I've never met, or I've met very few men, women with the kind of sense of humor and the talent that he had.
Yeah.
One of the funniest, one of the, again, most talented. I always thought that Cameron Gray could have been a rock star.
Absolutely.
In terms of radio and
100%
and culture. And he had a very unique way, in a phrase, in a quip, to make a point and make you laugh at the same time. And
100%.
so I've been praying for his wife. I really have. And I've talked about it with my family. I'm shocked that he's gone. And it's caused me to really think differently this week about my health, about my
100%.
family, about wanting to make a difference in the world. And so I don't mean to. That's what I have to say about him.
No,
and,
I had my 10-minute monologue on Monday about this, Jerry, and you weren't there, so you're welcome to sort of monologue about this. For those of you who missed it, you can go back and listen to it. We also appended to that episode 166 of the old Langer cast, Everybody Hates Langer, right? I mean, what Jerry's talking about here, right?
Right.
So literally we're sitting down to do a show, and all of a sudden Cameron comes out and says, Langer, I was talking to some guy, and somebody Jerry and I both know. I'm going to say this as code. He's a second tier writer. He's a B-list writer. Somebody will be able to figure out who that is.
Yeah.
And he hates you. He hates you. Why do people hate you? How do you piss off people that much? Which I never know. Yeah. So Compass Media, by the way, folks, Compass Media has, so you understand. So Cameron, he was a radio producer, had been producing podcasts for the last couple of years. But during the football season, I don't know if you know this, Jerry, you may not know this. Every weekend during the pro football season, Cameron worked with Compass Media to do audio production for NFL football games.
Oh yeah, I knew that. You sure?
Yeah. So he would fly out every weekend to Arrowhead Stadium in what was Kansas City or wherever, out in California. And it's funny. I've been trying to find a clip and I can't find it. But there's a really great clip from the 90s on the old Don and Mike show, where Rob Spiewak from the Don and Mike show is talking to Jack Kent Cook. And Cameron had been, I guess, when he was holding the parabolic mic on the edge of the field at a football game, somehow he got there was a play and he got trampled by the football players. and Rob Spiewak was asking Jack Kent Cooke about that and about, the G. Gordon Liddy show, and Kent Cooke kept referring to G. Gordon Liddy as G. Gordon Libby. Gordon Libby. He speaks a lot of truths. Anyway, I've been trying to find that. But that's just it. I said it on Monday. I'm gonna miss it. It was, I don't even remember. I got the word. I got a text message from, I got a couple of phone calls from John Pop.
And John's another good guy, and
John and Cameron.
I met Cameron actually through Andrew, but in my mind it was always John and Cam. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it was
absolutely.
They were always together. And
the two of them had worked together at Superstation WJFK. They produced for G. Gordon Liddy. Both of them were regulars on the old Don and Mike show.
And Pop is such a good guy.
He's a mensch.
A good guy.
I said Cameron's a mensch. Pop's a mensch. Pop's now at the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
And I literally thought Pop was needed to borrow a piece of equipment from me, because he and I had
you were at a family event and you got the phone calls, and you called me that night. It was 10 o'clock. I'm like, isn't he at the event?
I was,
and I picked up. I was actually a little nervous that something happened with you.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly it. And then when I got a couple of phone calls from Cameron's phone, I literally thought it was another friend of ours who. And then we got the news.
You know what?
So, but here's my point. Compass Media has set up a memorial fund. I've been tweeting out about it. I've put it up on Facebook. I'll put it up on the Andrew Langer Show page. If you knew of Cameron, this is a memorial fund to help his wife. His wife is a realtor, and I'm not sure how much real estate she's going to be able to do while she's mourning. I mean, this shattered her world. She and Cameron had been together for many years. They were each other's rocks, and this has shaken her to her foundations. I'm sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
Well, and again, it's Holy Week. Easter's coming up, and again, we're talking politics. And what happened a couple of weeks ago at the Covenant Christian School, what's been happening in our culture with the very aggressive, very violent trans movement, what we're seeing from this presidency in terms of tethered from the Constitution, politicized, weaponized government, the Trump indictment. There's a lot that's scary, and on top of that, Cameron Gray, his passing away,
right?
It really has forced me to think that now more than ever, it's important to speak the truth.
Right.
It's important to get your life right. It's important to understand, look, we're not going to change Joe Biden, you and me, Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers. But if we could influence and persuade one of our listeners, and that listener persuades two of her children, and two of her children persuade six of their friends then persuade a teacher, a teacher then persuades. My point is that, and I've been watching The Chosen too.
I need to watch
that.
And
Jesus never did anything great in terms of what we assign greatness. He was never a king or a military general. He didn't travel many miles from where he was born, never left his own country, didn't write a great book or a song, didn't do any of the things that we associate with greatness. But the fact of the matter is, whether you believe him to be the Messiah, the Christ, or not, he has impacted humankind, human history more than any other individual.
The endurance of Christianity.
But here's the point to this and to our conversation. But he did it one at a time.
Yeah.
We don't have to change the Congress today. We don't have to change CNN today. But every engagement is an opportunity to speak the truth. And I think if more of us simply spoke the truth, our culture would improve, our teachers, our public school systems would improve, our universities, our politics, our culture, all would improve.
But it certainly, if you speak the truth, it saves you in terms of the sanity. You encourage others to speak the truth.
Yeah, that's good for yourself.
It helps to save us from the mass insanity. Listen, I want to say this much. It's sort of last comments about this. The only comfort, or one of the only comforts I have in terms of this passing of Cameron Ray, is that I know how I know that Cameron knew how I felt about him, and that he knew that I knew how he felt about me. I know the same thing with the guy that I do this podcast with, Jerry. Jerry knows how I feel about him. I know how he feels about me. And there's great comfort in that. And you never know.
No.
So share with those you love that you love them.
Speak the truth.
Speak the truth.
Don't go to bed angry. Don't have a fight with your kid and she goes off to university and you might not, don't do that. There's no good reason to do those things.
I've told this story. Maybe I haven't told the story. It was during the pandemic. I had and I don't have many fights with my kids. I got really, really angry with my younger one. And I got and it was something just so stupid. And, we had a conversation about it, and I was so glad I understood. I felt bad. It was horrible about having been angry at her. And since then, it's just a matter of, making sure that I have a better understanding of what's going on in her mind. Anyway, that's a total digression here. Jerry, you're on Sunday?
I am on Sunday, Easter Sunday. So we'll have a special. Yeah, Easter Sunday. You are
going to go in and do the show.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've missed an Easter Sunday.
Good.
And I'll wear my Easter suit, go into the studio and then go to church. But I just expect more of the same on Sunday. We're going to just talk about the truth, and we're going to, I don't say this enough, because we talk about politics so much. If there's no hopelessness, if you have Jesus,
right?
And the way our culture is now, I think that's our only hope. I've said this to you before. The only hope we have is Jesus, and so we gotta get there. And right. Anyway, so what do I always say, Andrew? Find the truth.
Oh no, you're not going there. Well, go ahead.
Going there?
Just say that. No,
go ahead. Go.
No, I was just going to say this much because I like to do the appearances first, and then we go back to this. I'm in for Steve Gruber on Monday. Steve Gruber, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern.
There's something else happening on Monday.
What else is happening on Monday?
Oh, I thought you loved me.
Oh, it's your birthday.
Yes,
it's your birthday on Monday. Yes, of course. Well, there you go. Well, I gotta.
Oh, I should have worn my St. Patrick, the Irish hat. I'll wear.
Yes,
I'll wear it.
To do that. Yeah. Good. Yes, Jerry's birthday is Monday. But yeah, I'm in for Steve Gruber. I am in for Larry O'Connor the following Monday and Tuesday.
That's great. Wow.
On WMAL, the Superstation. So go and check that out. New episode of Federal News, Lunch Hour with Federal Newswire drops on Monday as well for Jerry's birthday. And then there was something else and I forgot what it was. And don't worry about it. We'll get to it. Jerry, what do you want folks to do?
Find the truth, plant your feet, stand firm. God bless you all.
Have a great week, everybody. Have fun, and please stay safe.